Okay, now I'm talking about the grammar presentation that's on page 237 and 238, and basically the content here is the same as what's in the book. I've made some changes in the specific examples because I'm not asking you to do that reading that's on the previous pages. But we're going to talk about using the passive voice to describe situations and report opinions. And first we're going to talk about something called the stative passive. You don't really need to worry about that term, but these are expressions for which actually there is no equivalent active voice. We only do this in the passive voice, what I'm going to show you next. Okay, I can say things like, French and Spanish are related to each other. Those are languages. And there is no by expression at the end of that. I can say the U.S. is composed of 50 states, means it has 50 states in it. If I can talk about how Asia was connected to North America. This is long, long ago when people traveled from Asia to North America and became the Native Americans. And I say something like, Sacramento is located in the middle of California. All of these are passive expressions that don't have any by associated with them. You can see that whole box there is empty. Okay, now I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that I report opinions. And this is the first way with that. This that clause, which is actually a noun clause. I can say, some people say that banks are responsible for the current economic crisis. And that same sentence I can also use the verb think. Some people think that banks are responsible for the current economic crisis. For a verb I can use a believe, I can use allege, which has it says say something, but it means say something, but it has kind of the meaning of accusing. I can also do the same thing in the past tense. Some people say that some banks broke the law. Some people think that some banks broke the law. Okay, now I'm going into the passive voice with this, and I can say it is said by some people, but I don't need to say that. It is said that banks are responsible for the current economic crisis. Or I can use one of these other verbs. It is alleged that banks are responsible for the current economic crisis. Okay, and here is the past tense in the passive. It is said by some people that some banks broke the law. Or it is believed that some banks broke the law. Okay. Here's another way that we can say the same thing. We can say banks are said to be. I'm using to be instead of that. Banks are said to be responsible for the current economic crisis. Or banks are thought to be responsible for the current economic crisis. And here I'm using infinitive instead of the that clause. And it means the same thing. Okay, now we're doing it in the past tense with the passive verb and with this infinitive. Banks are said to have broken the law. It's the same thing as saying some people say that banks broke the law. Or I can say banks are believed to have broken the law. It's the same thing as saying some people believe that banks broke the law.